We made a short called Cliff Lake in 2010, and we were in a car in Montana, and I think it was somebody's girlfriend said, "Man, there's this cult in Montana, like, or there's something that's like a cult, and wouldn't that be a cool, thing to make a horror film about?" And we were horror filmmakers. Our last thing was about Sasquatch, and kind of our thing was taking something that about and finding out how it could be real. That's what we tried to do with Sasquatch. So we thought a cult would be a really interesting, topic. It was like 2010, way before a lot of the cult movies came out. So, of the next couple years. But that being said, we liked that idea, started kind of thinking about it. And then that same year, I believe, went to Burning Man with Nathaniel and Nick, who had been going with a group called the Cock and Waffle. And basically, they're a pretty big group. They had a giant bus, which you will see in the film. And basically, most of the people you see in the film were there. And for me, you hear Burning Man now a lot, and it's, party and amazing and blah, blah. But it's way deeper than that. It's a super intense experience of survival along with party and along with like self, actualization and stuff. So, and actually I had kind of a bit of a scary experience because these two guys were two of the only people in the camp I knew. And these were pretty flamboyant, awesome people. And it was kind of intimidating. So I kind of came back, and I think out there I talked to Rizzo, who you'll see in the film as well. It's kind of a de facto, leader. We say de facto pretty much because, people just fall into their roles, and that was one of his roles he kind of fell into. And he kind of mentioned to me, what can we do with this? And then also Roos, who you see in the film, said that to me a few weeks later at Thanksgiving, which we called Halloween 2 because it was terrifying and awesome. But they said the same thing, and I think I had that in my head, and I just put the two together, and we wanted to do a cult film with that group. Basically take us three, me and my two other filmmakers who had made the Sasquatch movie, and then take that crew and put them with this Burning Man crew and make them the cult, us going in. And we wanted to do a narrative for quite a while. And I was reading Movie Maker magazine a lot, and I was, paying attention to technology, and they're coming out with these cameras like the one you're filming with us now. We didn't have any money. And so it was like, well, let's do a version of that film where we won't lose anything. I didn't want to make a film with these cameras and no money that was trying to be something that wasn't. So we said, let's make a documentary. And that's where the idea started. I believe financial, restraints breed probably the most awesome creativity possible. So yeah, I would say that's probably what brought us there. I don't know, and we might have come to it some other way, but yeah.
Well, we knew that it was going to be improvisational in nature. And kind of thinking about the documentary aspect of it, it was one more decision down the road to go, well, if I'm a documentary filmmaker walking into this, then in order for that to seem authentic, what if the documentarians walked in to a situation that they'd never seen before? And then if we had planted all the seeds along the way, the documentary would sort of take shape like a documentary does. That, if we armed all of our cast with specific pieces of information along the way, then as the documentary crew navigated those waters and met these people, the story would start to emerge. And so essentially we kind of decided, well, let's play. This is an experimental film. Let's play with this. Let's play cops and robbers. And that's kind of what we did. The documentary filmmakers were the cops and the cult members were the robbers, or other way around, however you'd look at it. But because we wanted to do it that way because we'd studied a lot of the found footage stuff, a lot of that unscripted stuff that's out there, and sort of got a real sense of when the writing starts to come into play. And when you, as a viewer, are watching a piece like that, when you're sort of pulled out of this is a real thing into, well, this is a scripted piece. So what we set out to do was hold that moment off as long as we possibly could. It's a narrative, so of course there's plot points and things like that happening, but we wanted to make sure that those plot points were subtly layered in, and by the time you get to the point where you're like, oh, okay, there's some writing happening here, you don't care any longer because you're immersed. You're immersed with the people, they're real people. We had all of the actors essentially play themselves, just with a different set of given circumstances. And the given circumstance is, instead of coming back from Burning Man 3 years ago, they went out to central Montana and tried to keep the ball rolling as a lifestyle. So yeah, it was a very organic thing. We have a lot of that Burning Man crew they're all actors. And so, as opposed to trying to give them lines or any of that kind of thing, we're like, well, let's just use their innate ability to improvise and use it to our advantage.
That was kind of an organic process as well. The community that we went to Burning Man with and that are good friends of ours, it's a very similar space in that we set out to do a goal, go to Burning Man, create a campsite, XYZ, and people will step forward with the abilities to fill those spots. And a similar thing kind of happened, I guess, in the overall structure in terms of those minute places in the camp. For instance, the person who you see in the film who is cooking for the camp literally cooked for the camp. She set up, she did all of the budgeting for the food and pre-made everything that needed to go out. She cooked in a oven that we built out there. All of those things happened sort of organically. And then Adam and kind of took lead of the documentary side and built his team with Adam Pittman and David Blair and Adam Cotton, our sound guy. And Nathaniel and Rizzo kind of led up the other side of the camp, creating that environment and getting people into those positions. And I kind of floated in between, living here in Los Angeles at the time, but being very connected with them. I ran in between both camps. I did pre-production here with the crew, and then about 2 months out, I left and went to Montana, completely cut off ties with the documentary crew, and set about doing actual setup at the campsite. And then ran into Stilly for the first time on camera in the film. So
after 2 months of that.
yeah.
In pre-production, one of the questions that we posed to each of the cast members is, if this were to be our reality, if you were living in a commune or a cult with this group of people, what do you think your role would be? What would you do? Would you be a gardener? Would you be a cook? Would you be a builder? Or what would you do? So it was kind of funny that the way that worked was the actors' preparation sort of dictated how we were able to build our set and keep our set, because it was a live set. We lived there. We cooked there. We chat there. It was a live set, and it was very interesting how the immersive experience sort of dictated the actual logistics of the thing itself. Let's say the three of us were sitting in a writer's room and like pitching ideas for scenes. A guy steps on a prickly pear and the other people get irritated, probably wouldn't sell. It would be one of those ideas that we're going to move on to a good idea. But because of the improvisational nature of the piece, is a very human moment. Yeah. And we got a lot of those because of that. Like things that you would never think about, like the prickly pear in the foot moment. Like you wouldn't be able to write that, I don't think. Or you could, but far better writers need to do that.
I had some understanding of how they were going to come in, but overall, both sides kept things pretty close to the chest, and I didn't know too much about what the camp was planning until I got up there. They gave me some bare bones, and there was some prep work that I needed to do, being that I was going to be on camera, that I was given. But I wasn't really sort of let into the fold until I got up and got to jam with Nathaniel in Montana and see sort of their research and their folders and what they were doing. And, you know, with the production crew, I mean, they didn't really know what to expect. So really, we were just sort of planning for the worst possible scenarios given the budget that we had, and that was the camera set that we came together with, and the sound and everything else. You know, a lot of what I was doing too was just pre-production paperwork and things like that, having a lot of really fun conversations with SAG, you know, like where are you keeping your actors and that stuff.
You'll see him digging the shitters.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I can speak to the Sierra thing real quick, because it kind of was a big one. It's really, it's as you're writing, you know, you have the inciting moment, right? And you have your character that throws your story into, you know, through Act 2 into Act 3. And at that point, I hadn't even studied writing so much. It really, doing the film this way taught me so much about actually the writing process, even though we didn't write this. As I was out there, I was kind of a point person, supposed to pay a lot of attention to stuff, and I was taking notes the whole time. And Sierra, I had met her at Burning Man. She was the sweetest one. And for some reason, like, I didn't talk to her when everybody's giving me hugs when I first showed up, and I didn't see her. And then we interviewed Martha, was our first interview, the cook. She and Sierra was in there with her, and she was chopping lettuce, and like she was just like dark, and she didn't. People would try to talk to her, and she wouldn't talk very much, and I was just like, what is with her? You know, so she got me. She had my attention. And then there was one other moment, you'll see it in the film, where we're at the garden, and I'm asking John with the camera, I'm asking John what's going on, because something's happening in the camp, and I'm asking him why. And I look over with my eyes, I'm on John, but I look, and Sierra just put her head down, and she was like dark. So you'll see I zoom over to her. It's very subtle. And so in my mind, that's again just a testament to, you know, this process, and then the actors being so smart, and then us playing and picking up on little things where I was like, something's with her, and she's gonna be something. And I didn't know yet, but when we finally got together with, you know, everybody, because we didn't get together for like 5 or 6 days. Like, it was all interviews. It was nobody talking about anything. We had a secret word that we'd say if we were going to break character. And even then, we weren't talking plot. It was just to talk and hug or get sane. But yeah, so then when we finally met, I had that Sierra thing to offer, and some other things, and we built from there.
Yeah. We you know, in our preparations with the actors, like getting everybody ready to go, one of the big questions was, how would you feel about this? You go out to central Montana, you've built this place with your friends, and now there are cameras everywhere. How do you feel about that? And, you know, it's basically, do you like it or do you not like it? And that simple question led to so many great moments. It's basic acting. It's a basic acting exercise. How do you feel about the situation that you're in? And so it created tension in some places. It created like a really wonderful good feelings in others. But each individual, and we didn't dictate that to them. We just asked that and didn't even really ask for an answer. Just, well, if that's how you feel about it, then let's see it. And the Sierra thing was a perfect example of that, of how someone's opinion about the given circumstances dictated the narrative itself eventually, which was pretty cool, and one of the great organic things that happened in the process.
Yeah, we had 4 SAG actors. They were all awesome. They did everything they could to help us along the process. You know, I mean, it's just new folks coming into that ultra low budget contract. It can be interesting and challenging. But yeah, we managed to get it all settled out. We had somebody, because we were so far out of cell phone range. I mean, I had to go at one point during production, we had to drive 40 miles to like a school library to print out some stuff and get it like sent out. But we had some awesome people that had our back here in Los Angeles, kind of covering some bases with getting the reports in and doing all of that. But yeah, definitely a challenging part of the situation, but definitely worth it in the end.
Yeah, we weren't sure, really. I mean, I know that was one of the main things. Like, I was a very big middleman between the camp and the documentary crew. And Adam Pittman, who the curly-haired guy, he kind of was on top of, you know, the technical aspects. So that was one of the big things I had to make sure going through the middle that, you know, we were going to have generators and stuff to take care of that. And, you know, luckily the Burning Man crew, like, they all that stuff was built in because they like to throw parties and have those lights like you see in the movie and stuff, and everything was built in, like, and we needed that stuff. Yeah, we just had to make it work. It was something we haven't talked about is that it was 110 degrees out there almost every day. There was no shade in those yurts. It was probably 100 degrees, so it was like, you know, our cameras are overheating, we're dealing with all that stuff, like almost dying, and, you know, praying that nothing, you know, breaks down. And hey, to Canon, nice job. Yeah, I mean, I want to say, I mean, first of all, we're all from Montana, and so I think inherently a lot of our stories live there. As we were kids there, and, you know, we ran around the woods and played, you know, there. So, like, to be up there, you know, kind of makes sense. To be honest, though, this part of the you know, Montana's huge. We all grew up in the western side, which is in the Rocky Mountains. This part's like the high plains. It's like a desert, and so none of us had really been out there. So it was really interesting, and super lucky. I mean, Montana is incredible, and the land we are on. Gabe Clark, who is not in the movie that much. It was a huge hero of this movie. He heard early on we wanted to do this, and we couldn't have done it without this. His family had, was it 30 square miles of land in eastern Montana, which is a lot. Like, I mean, you could see one of those overhead shots of the photos. You're seeing about, you know, a fourth maybe in the all of it. Like, we drove all around it when we first got there with his aunt. And we were on the back of this flatbed truck, like, flying around. We're like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. Like, you know, like, this is where we're going to make our thing, you know, just flying around. We love, like, wild stuff like that. So we pull up to this, like, great overlook, like, and we walk up. She's like, oh, yeah, there's teepee circles up here. I'm like, oh, that's cool. They made teepee circles. Wow, isn't that cool? And, like, we walk up, and I look, and I'm like, wow, this looks really authentic and crazy. I was like, who made these? And she said, the Indians. And I was like, what do you mean? The Indians. She was like, the Indians, dude. And I was like, holy shit. Basically, this land has not been, you know, had not been, like, it was taken over by this one family, and they've had it forever. So all this land, there's arrowheads everywhere. It's really amazing. It's untouched. I think somebody says I think it's Karen Jean says, out here it's like we're not in time. Time just kind of goes through us. And it really was really interesting and weird and lent to the sci-fi nature and the vibe we were in, because it really did feel like we were in a timeless place. That